Hey folks, today we are going to rebuild this dual stage climate control vacuum actuator for Mercedes-Benz. They used this style of dual stage actuator from the early 1970s to the early 1990s on a range of different models. They can look a little different sometimes, but internally it's the same thing. This video applies to these dual stage actuators. It doesn't apply to these single stage ones, which we did a video on. These have 2 positions on and off. These have 3 positions. They've got 2 vacuum chambers, 2 barbs, and they can partially retract and fully retract. Kind of neat, allows for the blending of air. Okay, and typically what happens inside of these is these diaphragms, they wear out, they crack. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to change the diaphragm assembly inside, and we sell at Climate Design Works these press fit, I call them cartridges. This rear diaphragm is held captive. You can't take this apart, so you need to replace it as a whole, okay? And we have the eyelet style, okay, which is an older style. And if you have eyelet style, you have to drill the rivet out that was used to hold your linkage on, move it over, okay? And then you can use these screws that we include to attach it. It works great. It's a nylock stainless screw. We also have a cartridge with the later style. It's a clasp type, and it has this plastic clasp, and it will hold the linkage on. You just snap it on, and that's a later style one. So there's two flavors of this. All right, so now we are going to disassemble this. So to start out, it's very important to draw an index line so that the top, intermediate, and bottom match up. I've previously done that here with this paint pen. Make sure you do that. The clocking is important, okay? Let that dry, don't smudge it. All right, so we're gonna open the case, cut up an old credit card or loyalty card, something like this, into 4 little strips. Don't use a small screwdriver. And then you just push these from the back, okay? Not the front, but the back in. And the tension from the little ears or tangs will typically hold these in place. They may fall out, but just put them back in. Okay, once it's tensioned up, just come in with a little screwdriver, not much force, guys, and you just pry a little bit, and it opens up. Be gentle, don't break the ears. They can definitely break. And then you have to throw out the housing. Okay, now we're going to remove the leading diaphragm. You're looking at a new actuator assembly. I previously showed you what they typically look like, the old diaphragms. Okay, and then next, we're going to do the same thing we did for the rear. Okay, now with the top cap, okay. You might need to hold these in with your fingers, typically you don't. And sometimes these come off easy, sometimes they don't. Okay. This one's gonna come off easy because we've already taken it off, but then you just pry a little bit. All right, and be careful because sometimes it hangs up by one ear. Just be gentle and it'll open up. All right, so top cap, spring, intermediate, and your cartridge. All right, so here we have it. These are the parts. Okay, now we are going to reassemble this dual stage actuator. We need the top cap, the spring, we need the new cartridge, and we need the intermediate for this first part. We do not need the bottom cap or the lead secondary diaphragm. I want to make sure we take that off. Keep the work surface nice and clean. This comes pre-lubricated. Don't add additional lubricant. Make sure that the housing has been thoroughly cleaned inside, as any debris or dust can become abrasive. Okay, so we're going to start out by taking the cartridge here, and what we want to do is we want to stretch very carefully, moving slowly, stretching it out good. We want to stretch the outer lip of the captive diaphragm here. And do this really good, you you really want to, don't be shy and get into it. All right, now, ears pointing up. We're going to put that in there. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to take the spring. We're going to try to work quickly here because that diaphragm is stretched. Align the index marks, okay? Now, what I like to do, it's a little hard to show, is I'm holding the cartridge with my left hand and I feed the lip of the diaphragm over the top cap, okay? And I make sure it's pretty well seated all the way around. And then we try to press it on as squarely as possible. Now we don't know if this is sealed. One of the things we want to do is we can look and tilt this over a little bit. You can go around and look. Sometimes you can see if you didn't get the diaphragm seated right because there's a little bit of a wrinkle. That looks okay. All right, and at this stage what we need to do is we need to test it. You can use a Mighty Vac. I have a Mighty Vac, but I'm going to show this low-cost vacuum pump. It's from Harbor Freight. These are good to have, especially if you're not doing much vacuum work. It's affordable. I'm only going to put vacuum. We're just testing this stage. We're only putting vacuum to the rear part. Make sure all of these little tabs are fully engaged. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick vacuum check. So back goes the actuator. And holding vacuum. Excellent. And it retracted. Good. So we got that far, and so far so good. Now on to the next part. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to put the lead diaphragm on, and we're going to finish by closing the housing with this base cap or bottom part of the housing. Similar to that procedure we used for the top, I'm going to stretch the diaphragm lip out pretty good. Again, keep everything nice and clean. Quickly slide this over the piston and make sure this is well seated in here, okay? And then put your top or your base cap over it, align your index marks, okay? And what I like to do is I like to push in the piston a little bit with one finger. Just make sure I got, it's a little tricky to show here, but make sure I'm feeding the diaphragm in, right? And then get this cap on as squarely as you can, okay? It can be a little off from the index mark, as long as it's inside of these little plastic ears. It's a little bit tolerant of misalignment, but make sure that you get all four of these little ears engaged, okay? Now, you can push this in a little bit. You can look around in there and check, do you have any wrinkles in the diaphragm? We don't know yet whether we got that seated, okay? All of our ears are in here. So now we're gonna do a vacuum check. And I'm just gonna check that chamber at this stage. Okay, so it's gonna go in the side. And we just wanna see that it holds vacuum, and it does. If you just apply vacuum to the secondary chamber, it doesn't move, only a little bit, okay? So that's great. So now we know we've got our primary top chamber of this actuator sealed, the bottom sealed. And now we're going to do an operation check. So what I want to do is I'm going to take, you need a T to do this, okay? I like to use silicone vacuum line because it's flexible. What we do is we attach it to both of the vacuum takeoffs, okay, like so, and then apply vacuum to both. You see the actuator, man, that went back really far, just like it's supposed to, okay? Holding vacuum and release. And back it comes. Excellent. All right. There you have it, folks. This is rebuilt and should be good to go for many years. There will be a few additional steps depending on what type you have. This eyelet type, as I said, you've got to move your linkage over and attach it with the hardware that we include, or if it's just the clasp type, you want to attach your hardware, and then you can put it back into service. Okay, and again, if you have any issues, with the sealing of the diaphragms, just be careful and keep in mind it really has to do with, did you stretch the lip and did you feed things in as straight as possible? That accounts for most of the issues that come up when you're rebuilding these things. And again, if you have any broken ears or whatnot, you're going to have to source, new housing parts, because all of these need to be intact to keep everything centered and sealed properly. Okay, thanks for watching.